over a campfire. Chapter 7. Flames of the Night. After the laughter and games had faded into the soft hum of twilight, the camp slowly exhaled. The students, worn from travel and the burst of team activities, peeled away into their cabins like bees retreating to hives after a long forage. Some girls flopped onto beds without so much as removing their shoes, while others took turns using the wooden washroom stalls to freshen up. Gina tied her wet hair into a loose bun after washing her face, already half asleep as she mumbled something about snacks. Mia changed into a pair of fuzzy blue socks and curled up with a book, while Eva sat by the window writing in her sketchy travel journal, doodling tiny pine trees in the corner of a page. Lena, ever the quiet observer, sat cross-legged on the lower bunk. Her Polaroid camera rested beside her like a loyal pet. She had taken quite a few snaps throughout the day, blurry ones from the hike, candids of Gina chasing a butterfly, and a funny one of Zoe mid-jump with his mouth wide open. Each picture felt like a small story frozen in time. She flipped through them slowly, reliving the day one frame at a time. Her eyes suddenly caught an image she hadn't expected. Caleb, crouched on the forest path, his gaze fixed intently on a small cluster of mushrooms growing between the roots of a tree. The photo highlighted the mushroom's intricate shape and unusual coloration. A rare species, she realized immediately. She frowned slightly, her concern growing. Mushrooms in the wild could be beautiful but dangerous, even deadly. Concerned, Lena grabbed the photo and quietly made her way to Caleb's room. She knocked softly and stepped inside. "Hey, Caleb," she said, holding out the photo. "I took this of you earlier. Did you bring that mushroom back? It looks dangerous." Caleb looked at the photo and shook his head with a small smile. "No, I didn't pick it up. I was just inspecting it carefully. I know better than to mess with something like that in the wild." Relieved, Lena smiled back. "Good. I was worried because some mushrooms here can be poisonous." Caleb nodded. "Yeah, me too. I just like observing them." Lena handed the picture over to Caleb and said, "Keep this as a memory from our camp then." Caleb glanced at it again and smiled. "Thanks, Lena. This is actually kind of cool." With that settled, Lena left Caleb's room and continued to walk around the cabins, handing out the other Polaroids she'd taken to her friends, sharing small moments of the day captured in pictures. One by one, she made her way through the other rooms, handing out the photos she'd taken throughout the day. One of Mia gazing at the climbing ropes with an odd expression, one of Jason pretending to wrestle a tree, and a blurry but somehow hilarious photo of Mike mid-sneeze, which got a huge laugh from Gina when she saw it. "Seriously, Lena," Gina chuckled, handing Mike his sneeze photo. "You captured him in his natural element." Mike rolled his eyes but grinned. "I'm putting this in my future autobiography." Just then, the camp triangle rang sharply in the distance. 3 chimes, loud and clear. "All students to the center hall. 10 minutes, came Ms. Blakely's unmistakable voice from outside. "Oh," Jason said, already pulling on his hoodie. "It's the sound of responsibility." Hannah looked up from where she had been tying her shoes. She felt a flutter of excitement mixed with nerves. The center hall, their first official camp gathering. "I wonder what they'll announce," Mia said, adjusting her glasses. "Maybe more rules," Zoe quipped dryly. "Or they'll hand out mosquito repellent like it's a sacred ritual." "I'm betting it's the first real activity schedule," said Ava, eyes wide. "Maybe they'll split us into teams." Rory punched the air. "Yes, I hope we get to pick animal names. I call the Wolverines." "You'd eat your own teammates," Zoe replied with a smirk. The students trickled out of their cabins, following the winding gravel path toward the warmly lit center hall. As they neared the doors, soft acoustic music floated through the open windows, Mr. Hahn plucking at a guitar in the corner of the room. Inside, teachers were already waiting, clipboards in hand, eyes scanning as students took their seats on long wooden benches. Hannah, Mike, and Gina sat together near the middle. Lena slid in beside them, still holding her camera. Jason took a spot next to Zoe and Rory, who were quietly arguing over which animals made better mascots, eagles or badgers. Darnell slumped beside Ava, still skeptical about whether camp even had a rope swing. Dan entered last, walking with practiced confidence. Caleb, already seated at the edge of another bench, didn't even look up. The last to arrive were Maya and Mr. Hahn, who had carried an extra bench from outside for students who didn't fit. As soon as everyone settled, Miss Blakely stepped forward, clipboard and whistle in hand. Tonight, we will have our official campfire gathering. It begins after dinner, and every student is expected to participate. A quiet buzz ran through the crowd. To make it more engaging, Ms. Blakely went on. Each activity team will perform a short skit or story, original, creative, and meaningful. Your story must be connected to your team's name and carry a moral lesson. That means no randomness, no toilet humor, and no, Jason, no interpretive dances involving pine cones. Jason dropped his raised hand slowly and leaned back, feigning disappointment. Miss Collins picked up from there. After the skits, we'll gather around the fire to roast marshmallows and grill corn. It's an opportunity to bond, to reflect, and to celebrate your first full day here. A few cheers erupted from the students. Rory clapped. Mike bounced slightly in his seat. Hannah looked cautiously excited. Teams will have time until dinner to plan and rehearse, Ms. Rayner added, her voice firm. You may use the open field or the center hall porch. No wandering into the woods. Yes, please don't get creative with that part, Zoe muttered under her breath. Dan whispered to Caleb, bet we'll have the best one. Caleb didn't respond. He was staring out the window, hands still in his pocket, fingers brushing the photo of the mushroom. Ms. Jordan stepped up, smiling brightly. And remember, this is not a competition. It's about teamwork, fun, and learning something about each other. So be creative, be respectful, and yes, try to be on time. Jason gave a dramatic salute. We shall honor this mission with grace and grilled corn. Props are allowed. Imagination is encouraged. Just don't light anything on fire, except the actual fire, Ms. Rayner added, deadpan. The groups quickly found spots around the grounds, some sprawling on picnic mats, others sitting in huddles on the porch floor. The trailblazers, Gina, Hannah, Lena, and Mia, settled under a maple tree near the center. Gina pulled out a small notebook. Okay, trailblazers. That means we lead, we explore, we're brave. We could do a story about a team that hikes into unknown territory to help a lost animal, Mia suggested, pushing her glasses up. Or maybe we blaze a trail into the future, Lena added excitedly. Like a time travel story. We need a moral, Hannah said softly but thoughtfully. Maybe, that sometimes the first to go has the biggest responsibility? I like that, Gina said. Let's mix both ideas. Time-traveling hikers who go back and fix something. That gives us emotion and a moral. Nearby, Dan's group had taken over a wooden bench area. Dan stood like a director, arms crossed. We should do a story about strength, he declared. Something powerful. Heroic. Caleb raised an eyebrow. So, like a superhero thing? No, like a real-life hero. Survival. Courage. That kind of stuff, Dan said. But we're not called the heroes, Maya said gently. We're the summit seekers. Dan frowned. Which could mean we aim for our highest potential, Maya continued. It doesn't have to be brute strength. Caleb added. Maybe someone climbs a mountain, not a real one, but like overcoming something difficult. And they help someone else instead of just racing to the top. Dan slowly nodded. That could work. It's still strong. Just quite strong. Elsewhere, Rory was dramatically pretending to fight off an imaginary bear, while Zoe rolled her eyes and sat scribbling in a notepad. Rory, we're the wild watchers, Zoe reminded him. Not the wild wrestlers. I know. I'm just setting the scene, Rory said, doing another twirl with a stick. We could do a story where someone wants to see something wild and rare, but it ends up being dangerous, Ava offered. And the lesson is, respect nature's boundaries? Zoe said. Exactly, Ava nodded. I'm down, Rory said. But I still get to wear a leaf crown or something. On the porch, Jason was writing furiously while muttering lines out loud, his team mostly watching him go. And then the rubber chicken explodes. Wait, no, wrong story, he said, flipping to another page. You're making this too silly, Darnell said. We're the night navigators. We should have mystery, suspense, hidden symbols. And rubber chickens, Jason added. No, Darnell and the rest said in unison. They all burst into laughter. Meanwhile, Mike was pacing, reciting his lines to no one in particular, then sitting and scribbling again with Gina's spare pen. Ooh, what if the Trailblazers accidentally changed something in the past and had to fix it before dinner or they vanish forever? Mike, Lena said, laughing. We're not doing time paradoxes. The hour passed in an excited blur. Some groups had finished early and were already practicing. Others were still editing their last lines. Ms. Blakely signaled it was time for dinner. The students made their way to the open-air dining pavilion, which was lit with soft lanterns strung between wooden posts. Long wooden tables had been set up buffet-style with steaming trays of food, golden grilled chicken pieces glistening with herbs, creamy mashed potatoes topped with a drizzle of brown gravy, and sides of roasted vegetables. A separate table held fresh salad, fruit platters, and pitchers of orange punch and cold water with mint and cucumber. Get in line, quietly, Ms. Rayner instructed as she stood near the food table, arms crossed. Gina, Mike, and Hannah moved together, trays in hand. Ooh, grilled chicken smells amazing, Mike said, bouncing on his heels. And mashed potatoes. Yes, Lena grinned. This is comfort food heaven. Caleb eyed the serving tongs skeptically. If they run out of gravy, I'm rioting. Dan grabbed 2 large chicken legs, holding them like trophies. Best dinner yet. Teachers stood nearby, chatting and watching the students. Mr. Hahn gently tapped his fingers on a plastic plate, humming a folk tune. Ms. Jordan handed out napkins and helped Ava fix her tray after her fork slipped. Ms. Collins moved through the lines, reminding students, don't forget the veggies. You'll thank me later. As the students sat at the long picnic-style tables, laughter and the clinking of cutlery filled the air. Jason recounted a story about once trying to grill marshmallows over a candle in his room. Darnell nearly snorted mashed potato from laughing. You're lucky your curtains didn't melt. You're lucky I'm alive to tell the tale. Jason added dramatically, waving his spoon like a wand. At one table, Hannah sat with Gina and Mia, enjoying the warm, savory meal. Hannah let the gravy swirl into her vegetables and glanced around, quietly observing how even the noisiest students had mellowed into smiles and full mouths. Rory asked for seconds on chicken. This is protein power. I need it. You know, in case we see bears. Bears don't care how much protein you ate, Zoe replied, deadpan. Once everyone had eaten their fill, some lingering over the mashed potatoes, others nibbling on fruit slices, the teachers clapped twice to get their attention. All teams, gather your props and come around the fire pit. We begin in 10 minutes, said Ms. Rayner. Students kept their food trays and grabbed their props, sticks, paper crowns, leaf capes, and even Mia's ukulele, and began moving toward the glowing circle of fire where the teachers had begun to light the logs. The air buzzed with anticipation. The campfire night was about to begin. Night crept in gently, cloaking Silver Pine's nature retreat in a cool, pine-scented breeze. The center hall lights dimmed, and a soft glow began to radiate from a clearing not far from the cabins, where teachers had prepared a large, carefully enclosed campfire pit. Smooth logs and folding chairs were arranged in a wide circle, and in the center blazed a warm, crackling fire whose golden flames licked upward, casting flickering shadows on the faces of the gathered students. The smell of smoke, earth, and burnt pine wood mingled with leftover whiffs of grilled chicken and sweet marshmallow packets now resting beside each group. Teachers moved around with quiet watchfulness, Ms. Blakely checking off names on her clipboard, Ms. Rayner tending the fire, Mr. Hahn tuning a wooden flute softly, and Ms. Jordan balancing trays of corn on skewers. All right, campers, Ms. Collins called out with a smile. Get cozy. It's showtime. Cheers erupted. Each team had spent the past hour writing, rehearsing, and arguing over the silliest details of their stories. Now it was time to perform. The Trailblazers, Hannah, Gina, Mia, Lena, were the first to volunteer. Lena stood dramatically with a stick as a pretend torch. Once upon a time, there was a group of explorers who dared to make their own trail, because they believed every step made them braver. Gina played the leader of a group lost in a mysterious forest, while Hannah quietly narrated and Mia, in her glasses, played a mapmaker who keeps getting the directions wrong. The skit ended with the characters realizing that it wasn't the destination, but the courage to try that made them true trailblazers. Moral: you don't need to follow footsteps when you can create your own path. Applause followed, and even Ms. Rayner nodded approvingly. Next were the Night Owls, Mike, Jason, Ava. Jason dramatically wore a towel as a cape. We are the night owls, keepers of wisdom in the dark. Mike pretended to be a hyper young owl who kept falling asleep during missions. Ava, the sensible owl, scolded him while flapping imaginary wings. In the end, their group outwitted a sneaky raccoon, played with hilarious growling by Jason, using teamwork and clever thinking. Moral: even in the dark, wise choices light the way. The crowd laughed and clapped. Mike bowed flamboyantly, nearly tripping over a marshmallow skewer. Then came the rock climbers, Dan, Caleb, Maya. Dan and Caleb, whose earlier tension had eased slightly, played rival climbers competing to conquer a mystical mountain. "You'll never make it past Avalanche Ridge," Dan roared. Caleb crossed his arms. "You talk too much." Maya played the quiet, calm climber who ultimately helped both boys when they got stuck on the ledge, sharing her rope and reminding them that the mountain didn't belong to just one person. Moral: strength is good, but kindness gets you to the top. Ms. Jordan clapped enthusiastically. Mr. Hahn smiled, gently nodding. Last but not the least, the wild trackers, Rory, Zoe, Darnell. Rory insisted on playing himself, bold and a little too daring. He led the team deep into bear territory, with Zoe trailing behind, sarcastically narrating. "And this is how Rory gets eaten." Darnell played a mysterious guide who kept warning them. But Rory charged ahead, only to be ambushed by bushes, which Zoe hilariously tossed over him. In the end, they made it back, but only after listening to Zoe's logic and Darnell's advice. Moral: bravery needs brains to survive the wild. Laughter echoed around the circle. Even Ms. Rayner cracked a smile. Once the performances ended, the teachers handed out marshmallow skewers and hot foil-wrapped corn cobs. Students gathered closer to the fire, their eyes dancing with firelight and shared joy. Mike and Jason tried to toast 4 marshmallows at once. Zoe rolled her eyes but handed Rory a perfectly golden one. Gina helped Hannah carefully roast hers, showing her how to hold the stick just right. Miss Collins stepped forward, a warm smile on her face. "Before we wind down, let's open the floor for a bit of talent. No pressure, just fun." Some students perked up instantly. Gina grinned, nudging Mike, who pretended to be bashful. "You first." "I'm more of a crowd clapper," Mike joked. Soft music played from Mr. Hahn's flute, blending with the gentle crackle of the flames and the soft hum of nighttime insects. It was one of those rare, golden moments when everything and everyone seemed to belong. From the far side of the circle, Darnell stood up, casually brushing ash from his sleeves. His tone was calm and unreadable, but his eyes sparkled with quiet confidence. "I'll go," he said simply. Mia, sitting nearby with her little ukulele, looked at him. "Want chords?" He nodded. "Yeah, something slow, like mellow. G major to start." She strummed a soft chord progression, steady and sweet. The firelight flickered across her round glasses as she focused, anchoring the rhythm. Darnell closed his eyes for a second, then began to sing, his voice deeper and smoother than anyone expected. It had the quiet strength of someone speaking a truth he rarely shared. The lyrics were improvised but heartfelt, about coming to camp expecting nothing, about seeing people laugh together, about feeling like maybe, just maybe, he could let his guard down too. The clearing went still. Only the crackle of flames and the occasional hoot of an owl stirred in the background. Even Ms. Blakely had stopped writing in her clipboard. When Darnell's voice faded, no one clapped right away. It wasn't the kind of performance that begged for cheers. It left everyone reflective, softer. "Whoa," Jason whispered. "That was actually amazing." "Didn't see that coming," muttered Dan, half impressed. Then, breaking the quiet, Zoe leapt to her feet. "Okay. Emotional reset time." Rory joined her with a dramatic roll forward. "We call this interpretive nonsense." As Mia picked up a bouncier melody, Zoe and Rory broke into their now infamous campfire dance. Rory pretended to be a wild bear chased by a butterfly. Zoe mimicked building a campfire with invisible tools, only to have Rory's flailing knock it over. Their exaggerated movements and dramatic reactions had everyone doubled over. Mike laughed so hard he fell off the log. 10 out of 10. Gina hooped, clapping wildly. Mia added an extra twang to her ukulele, trying not to burst into laughter as Rory performed a slow-motion pratfall into the dirt. When the last chord landed and Zoe collapsed in Rory's arms with mock exhaustion, the group erupted in cheering and applause. Even Mr. Han was laughing behind his glasses. With cheeks warm from fire and fun, the students leaned back against their logs and let the night wrap around them. Marshmallows were passed again, grilled corn and chicken still lingering in their bellies, the air filled with smoke, pine, and camaraderie.